Hello, everybody. Welcome to the OpenCV weekly webinar. Today, we have Kenny Davis with us, who is the CEO of ActionFace. This is the company that won the pitch contest in the entertainment and content technology category at South by Southwest this year. This is a huge accomplishment, and Kenny will tell us how to craft a winning pitch with computer vision. Kenny has also built multiple billion-dollar brands, which he will briefly talk about too. Also with us is Phil Nelson, who is the content manager at OpenCV. He's responsible for organizing this webinar and many other events for OpenCV. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Kenny will, I'll give you a chance to introduce yourself, but let's first quickly go with Phil, who's going to tell us a little bit about the format of the webinar and what we can expect during this webinar.
Yeah, hey everybody. Good morning once again for OpenCV Weekly Webinar, episode 51, if you can believe it. It is me once again, the co-host with the co-most, the next best thing, Phil Nelson. As always, here on OpenCV Weekly Webinar, we do a couple of things. One is taking Q&A from you in the audience. So please use the little Zoom Q&A button at the bottom of the screen to ask your question at any time during the webinar, and we'll try to fit it into the flow of conversation as we can, or we'll also save time at the end for you for those questions we couldn't get to. I'll also be checking out LinkedIn, so if you drop your questions in the LinkedIn chat as well, I'll try to bring those in as I can. We'll also be doing a special giveaway today to a lucky trivia winner later in the episode, so stay tuned for that. Kenny, would you like to tell them what they'll win if they get our trivia question right?
You will win a, hold on, let me do a little show and tell here.
Yeah.
You will win an action figure of you in whatever it is that makes you the most heroic version of yourself. I'm sorry, his face is so blown out. There you go.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Oh.
Look at that. Look at how handsome you can be.
Tremendous. Yeah, so thanks for that. Stick around. We'll do that after the presentation here.
Great. It's a pleasure to have you here, Kenny, and it's your show now. You can share your screen, start with an introduction, and then you can share your screen and go with the presentation.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much. So let me start by saying I'm a marketing person by trade. I have worked in the high-tech side of large companies that you've heard of, like Hasbro and Activision for most of my career, but I am not myself the person who's driving the tech. I'm a marketing person, and so when we were talking about what we could do on the show today that would be useful to the community, what I was told and what I've prepared for you is, high tech is not easy to market. By nature, it's magic. I mean, nobody's seen it before, and that's what makes it so exciting. But it also, because humans are, averse to change, it's tough to sell something that no one has ever seen before. So, what I'll sort of tailor this around, and I appreciate as many questions as can come in because I want to make this useful to you, is what does it take to sell something that no one has ever seen before? What does it take to sell something that, has the promise of magic, but at the end of the day is a little scary because, you've never seen it before. So with that, let me actually start with, in case it wasn't clear, I'm Kenny Davis. The company that I founded with some people who I absolutely adore is called ActionFace. I'll introduce you to my co-founders as we go through this presentation. We recently won South by Southwest top prize in entertainment, content, and gaming. All of us are from the entertainment world, toys, video games, and TV licensing. And I can't say just yet, but I will say in more general terms, we've just signed a license with one of the major sports leagues. And what you're about to see is sort of behind the scenes. But I very much hope that a year from now, you'll be like, oh my God, I heard about that before anybody else.
Yeah, we always like being first here. We're, OpenCV is the cutting edge sometimes.
Yeah.
Your background, are you going to mention about the brands that you built when you show the slides?
Yes,
Great.
so thank you, and so it's in the South by presentation. So what I thought I would do is go through the South by presentation, as Phil said, go through it slower than I did at South by. At South by, I had 180 seconds, and there was a gong at 181. So I will try to talk slower. I'll even explain why we put them in. I think what I'll do is I'll walk you through the presentation and then explain why those are in there from the standpoint of winning over the judges and the audience. One of those slides is about my background in the team, so I'll save that until then.
Yeah,
That's great.
For any, we were talking about, there's some pro wrestling in there as well. The phrasing I would use is tranquilo, tranquilo.
So should I share screen?
Yeah, give me 1 second. I think I need to enable this. All right, we're all good.
Okay. All right, you should see a
Looks
woman
good.
on a skateboard. Fantastic. So again, I'm going to give you the slower version of this, but I'm going to start with how I started this presentation. Now, I got to tell you, when you're standing in front of 500 investors and there's 4 judges on stage staring at you, being theatrical is really tough, but this is what I did. I said, every basketball superfan has imagined donning their team's uniform, hearing the roar of the crowd chanting their name, seeing their moment of greatness on the Jumbotron, and then being transformed into a legendary action figure. I'll stop here for a second. So what I wanted to do, and it, if you can smile while looking foolish, people love it. So marketing is theater, but what I was trying to do was get people not into the miracle of what we're doing and how hard this technology is. And believe me, we were working on it for 8 years, but just try to get them to go, why should I care? If you don't hook them with why should I care in the first 20 seconds, it doesn't matter what else you've said. So that was why, and the more people smile, the more they care. So that's it.
And you're making a personal connection too. You're not leading with the tech, you're leading with the feelings, which is important.
Leading with the feelings, and there was more to this too, is that when you're on that stage, and this will be true for anything that you pitch, your investors are not so much looking at what are your margins, what is they'll ask you all those things once they get bored. Their big question is, is this a unicorn? That's right. What everybody's asking nowadays is this a unicorn? So being on the Jumbotron, and we can back this up. This is technology we now can do this year. We just need a Jumbotron to do it on. But this says unicorn, and you need that initial opening visual that says you've got a unicorn on your hands.
Yeah, I agree. Leading with emotions and also this element of surprise, right? They go with wow, right? That's how it should start. There is no other way, because it's so competitive. You have to grab their attention, and then, the first 20 seconds or so can make or break the whole thing.
Yeah, give them the old razzle dazzle.
It's like the 80-20 seconds rule. 80% of your pitch is already taken care of in the first 20 seconds.
Right.
So then, what we're actually selling today, our revenue generating product is the action figure. And we struggled a lot, as we were telling our story, that as much as, we think this is the Instagram and consumer products, especially if, we hate the T word, toys, because that's what people compare this to, as toys, is Kodak. And, any investor would have said, so how much of Kodak's business can this Instagram thing take? And it's, it's totally the wrong question.
Right.
If you had your entire family as action figures, where you had grandma's face on her favorite, heroic moment, and your son when he graduated from the Navy and the house burned down, you wouldn't go shop at Walmart and buy a bunch of action figures to replace them. It's insane. They're not the same thing, but people have a tough time with their categories. So that was why we actually decided to start with the Jumbotron, which felt more epic. But in fact, this is a massive financial opportunity, and we don't apologize for that.
Right. I'm glad you brought up Instagram. One other analogy I'd like to give is, when digital photography became popular on the internet, it started with Flickr. And what were people sharing of Flickr? They were sharing beautiful pictures they took, right? They would share pictures of scenes and, sceneries and whatever,
Sunsets and buildings and architecture and whatnot.
whatever
Yeah.
they liked, right? They
Yeah.
were showing off their photography. And over the years, what has it morphed into in Instagram, they're not showing off their photography. They're mostly showing off themselves, right?
Right.
And
So,
their life.
and if, yeah, and their life. And if you think about it, the same transformation has happened in this action hero category as well. People used to buy Spider-Man, Superman, and the toy figures. Sorry for using the word, but
No,
the
no, please.
action figures, right?
Yeah.
But now technology has enabled us to personalize it, and so the move is going to be in that direction, that you want to see yourself as the action figure. You want to take components from that action figure, but you don't really want a generic Superman.
Right, right. And I'll get into, you're actually 3 slides ahead of me right now, but
Yeah.
let me come back to that point that you just made, because I think it's a really important point. All right, so the next slide was, again, now it's time to show people what we've got. So the core promise of this brand, so the technology actually comes much later. The core promise of this brand is that we will create the heroic version of you, or we give you the tools to create the heroic version of you. Right now, what we have in our ecosystem is we've sort of divided this into 5 ways that people find their power. There's, music, or it's actually a bigger category of any sort of artistic self-expression. Triumphs, a graduation is a great triumph. Sports, fantasy, and fashion. These are all ways that people find their personal power, and that's what makes us fun. I mean, at the end of the day, we're selling fun, and the type of fun that we're selling is self-expression. But it's really important to people. I mean, one of the things I've always noticed when we're out in the field is the more people were sort of disenfranchised growing up, the more they love this. The more they say, I've never gotten this. We have one of the first round draft picks of the NFL saw us at a party, texted me the next morning, and he said, I want in on this. I want to be your spokesperson. And I said, I said, awesome. We're still negotiating that contract. And I said, what you mean? I said, you're not just looking for a check, clearly, because he's already gotten far bigger checks than I'm offering him. I said, why are you so excited about this? And he goes, I grew up in poverty. And he goes, I never got to see myself or anyone who looked like me look like this, but this is how I think of myself.
Wow.
It was awesome. And here I'll show one of this was a football player. Here's, I'm
Neat.
sorry, the light is so bright, but you guys get the point.
It's very powerful. Yeah. I mean, representation matters, as they say.
Representation matters. All right, so then this one to me speaks everything. So I actually have been in the entertainment industry for 30 years. In the 90s, I created a reality TV show company, and so I started in TV. I wrote for Nickelodeon, then I went into video games, toys, and high tech. So as I've traveled through the entertainment world, one of the things I've noticed is that there's not just a social problem. You're starting to hear about this as a social problem, but it is a business problem. The number one goal that entertainment has is to create a hero that the entire audience will identify with. Mm-hmm. And, you could play the law of averages and you end up with Superman, but not everybody is going, I mean, you can sit in a dark theater and kind of imagine yourself as Superman. It's still fun, but there's this gaping hole, this opportunity in entertainment. Like I said, it's not just a social problem. It is a financial opportunity for the entertainment industry. What if you could make a hero that everyone could identify with? And the best way to do that is, what if you could make everyone the hero? And I've said this to my own team, for years, and there's usually that sort of light bulb moment when people go, oh, wait a minute. What we're talking about here is that in the future, the James Camerons of the world won't try to make you into Iron Man. I know I just confused a bunch of entertainment properties, but we'll try to make you into the king of the world. They'll write stories that make sense with you already being the hero from the beginning of the story. And that's a lot of what the metaverse and video games are already sort of positioning us to do. So here's where we start talking about the technology itself. We now have an app. I encourage you to download it. I would love your feedback. It is in beta. The initial scanning portion is really ugly. I'm going to be the first to admit that, but it works. It genuinely works. So you can 3D scan your face from ActionFace 3D scanner, iOS store, and then you customize yourself and create an action figure. We have a discount code at the end of this presentation. OpenCV only discount code.
All right.
And you know, this is where I've really struggled, and I'm going to take some time here because the point of being on the show is to help people who are geniuses at high tech explain to people who aren't why their high tech is magic. So every time we've talked about turning people into action figures, and I get this from tech investors who've spent their entire world in Silicon Valley. Well, that looks easy. Can't anybody else do that? What happens if Facebook, you know, put $1 billion into it?
They did. Turns out
it's not for lack of spending. So, you know, I've struggled with this for years. We've tried to, you know, talk about ML libraries and, you know, you know, it turned out even with the techiest of people, it's the common sense that seems to work the best. This slide works great. And then I'll tell you another story that that tends to work really well. So on our team, I'll show you the team in a second. On our team is the guy who was the lead for action figure design at Hasbro. And Hasbro is the action figure company: Star Wars, Marvel, G.I. Joe, Transformers, etc.
Yeah, and what with the licenses they don't have, they actually own the IP for.
Right, that's right. Yeah, they sub-license out. Yeah. So Dave ran action figure design for Hasbro for a very long time, and during his tenure, 3D printing 3D scanning came of age. And he was part of the team that pioneered 3D scanning celebrities to create action figures. Now, I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus, but I will tell you that a beautiful and famous actress from the Disney world saw herself a super accurate 3D scan of her face, shrunken down and put on an action figure. And she got so mad, she threw it at him. And because just being accurate is actually not aspirational.
That's right.
And, you know, as I've told that story to investors, it's resonated far more than explaining how we clean up meshes and delight the eye sockets and, you know, even talk about removing double chins and widening eyeballs. Like, it's too much tech for tech investors. But what they do like hearing is you got a credible person on the team who had an action figure thrown at him by a famous person, and then show them, look, this is where we are, this is where Facebook is, you know, common sense, the common sense.
Yeah, they say you never forget your first time having a celebrity throw an action figure at you.
I know. I can't, at this point, I can't even count.
This is incredible. I mean, if you look at the difference, right, it is, I mean, the action figure here, the animation that you're showing, there is so much that has gone into it, not in terms of technology. I mean, I'm pretty certain that the technology is very high class, but in terms of art that has gone into it, you know, there are very few people who can pull this kind of things off, right? Look, for example, the whole environment, the lighting, etc., right? It is making you into a hero, but not just that, the little subtle things. He walks with a swagger, and the Facebook avatar doesn't have legs. You know,
there's so much more. There's so much more personality.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's you know, very few people and very few companies can pull this thing off, right? I mean, it's almost like Pixar kind of animation where you need that art meeting science. Otherwise, this thing doesn't work.
You nailed it. You nailed it. I think that what we're in the business of is not technology. We're in the business of magic, and
Sweet.
you've got to have art and science.
Yeah.
And that's true even if you're creating, B2B cameras and robotics. At the end, I'm not convinced that you've fully realized your financial potential unless you are communicating magic to your customers.
Right. And the other thing I really like what you mentioned is that people don't want reality. Reality sucks. People, we were in photo editing business before. I was the founder of a company that did virtual makeover for women. Women could upload their own picture and apply makeup virtually. Again, we focused so much on tech. We did not focus on the aspiration part of it. But we failed. I made $0 million from that venture. And but whenever we talk to these large beauty companies, and they would say that, oh, we want accuracy, and we actually got their makeup products and did experiments to prove that under such and such lighting condition, our rendering was accurate. And they would say, no, this is not accurate, right? What they meant was that this doesn't look like my marketing. So what we did was I told my team that forget about realism, right? What we want is Photoshop realism. They want it to look like their marketing material. Don't even get the products. Let's just get their marketing stuff and let's match the color, lighting, etc. From there. And that's what they wanted. That's another thing I wanted to bring up, that people don't necessarily want reality. They want fantasy.
That's right. Yeah, beautifully said. We we always think of ourselves not so much as or what we do think of ourselves as storytellers. And so if you're going to tell a story where you're a hero, you're already in fantasy world.
Yeah.
So let me take this back. So you mentioned, what's the background, sort of how do we get here? So let me start with my background, which is long ago. I mentioned I had started a reality TV show company right out of college in the 90s. And my passion was actually not tech yet at that time. I just wanted to launch new brands. I wanted to create things that had never been seen before. That was sort of my passion. And what I stumbled into is that the way to do that is to be involved in high tech. And after, sort of leaving that TV company behind, going to business school, graduating, I at that point I was starting a family, so I had to go work at big companies. But I sort of worked my way into this role, very unique role within entertainment, which was the guy who launches new brands. And invariably that became the high tech guy. And over a 10-year period, I had 3 brands that went to #1 globally by revenue within their category. So that was Bakugan, which made 400 million in the first year. Then I moved to Activision, ran Kids and Family, and launched Skylanders, biggest new brand launch of all time for kids. $800 million, and then went over to Hasbro to run the high tech group. And our first brand was Furby, which was $350 million. And I was in 2014. I was actually in China for working on a Furby specifically for them, and got the call that our CEO had gone to CES and discovered 3D printing, and we're going to get into 3D printing. And the next thing, we were trying to figure out, like, what can you do in 3D printing? Like, we were trying to make a 3D printer so kids could make their own toys. And it was like, okay, wait, that's 20 years from now. Like, what can we do this year? And we ended up putting these giant 3D scanners, this thing you see on the right, at Walmart. And we did test markets to turn people into Star Wars and Marvel action figures. The footprint of this thing was the size of a small thecar. And
yeah, it looks like about the size of a Mini Cooper.
It was about the size of a Mini Cooper. And then you had to sit in this chair for 5 minutes. So there's actually a chair behind it that you had to sit kind of still in, and you get to watch a movie. And it was 3D scanning your face for 5 minutes.
Wow.
And so the throughput at the store was terrible.
And if there's one thing I know about kids, it's that they love sitting still.
Absolutely. I mean, the amount of morphine that we had to give them. We can.
It was
edit
great.
this,
Was it
right?
great value brand morphine?
That's right. That's right. We only use the generic because
You get a deal because it was a Walmart. Yeah.
It used to be legal back then.
That's right. But yes, in the halcyon days of 8 years ago.
So, so we had booth operators who we had to pay. We had the giant square footage. Walmart at the time had a store wide. They were looking for like $15 million per square foot per year. I mean, like the hurdle rate of this was just insane. So there was no way we could scale at that point, but we had lines. I mean, on a per store basis, the sales of this quote unquote toy were just phenomenal. So we I had several meetings with the C-suite of Hasbro going, how can we make this work? And of course, what everybody came back to was, is there any way that you could scan with the phone in your pocket? Because then you don't need a booth or booth operators or Walmart. This sort of leads up to the transition to the team and how we launched. But I do want to, I told you I'd come back to a story and again, the sort of theme of my being here is to sort of talk about what's the difference between creating tech, which is most of what you do, and selling magic, which is the next step. I was in line. So when we put these booths at Walmart, I went and visited, the various stores, and these were, like 12-day tests. It wasn't a permanent installation. So I went and visited a store, and nobody knew what it was. I mean, we didn't even have time to market. So it was just, what is this giant structure? Oh, we're turning you into Star Wars and Marvel action figures. Oh my God, I'm getting in line. So I see this family in line, and this mom is combing her hair, which of course is ridiculous because we're going to cut off just the face, but she's combing her hair, getting ready for her action figure, and she's got her kids in front of her husband's behind her, and I walked up to her and I said, can I ask you a question? I work at Hasbro. And she said, of course. I said, this is really interesting. It looks like you're very excited to make a toy for yourself. In my decades of selling toys to families, I've never seen a toy that a parent is this interested in getting for herself. I mean, it's one thing when you're 27 years old and you're buying Funko Pops for your living room, but once you have kids, you don't want more toys in the house. Like, that's just not a thing. And I said, do you mind my asking, are you actually, getting this for yourself? Are you really excited about this? And she was almost offended, and she was like, of course. And I said, that's awesome. I said, well, why? And she said, well, we're a Star Wars family. Oh. It hit me right in that moment. And I was so glad I asked her. I said, you're not going to put these in the kids' playroom, are you? And she said, no, these will go in the living room.
Those are going on the mantle. Yeah.
Those are going in the mantle. And that was that moment where I didn't even know until I asked her, like, oh my God, we're selling self-expression.
Yeah.
If I were to have 3D scanned her from head to toe, and this goes back to your story, if I 3D scanned her from head to toe, which would have been a $30,000 instead of a $10,000 booth, and it would have been, I mean, God, the printing costs, I mean, we were only spending printing on just a little face pancake. I would have actually done less of a service for her than giving her the ability to tell the world, we are a Star Wars family.
Right.
So, you always got to go back to what is the magic for people? Well, the magic is I just transformed myself into a Star Wars character, not I just 3D scanned myself and 3D printed it. So that was a wonderful sort of wake up call for me. Anyway, I left Hasbro. I moved to Silicon Valley. Let me get this. Oh, there we go. And in 2018, Apple added Face ID cameras to their iPhones, and that's when I saw the opportunity. And so I reconvened. I got the band back together. So Joby was the studio head at Activision who was responsible for Skylanders. So he and I launched Skylanders together. And he had sold 2 companies to Activision prior to that. Erin Bloodgood was the digital marketing guru behind LOL Surprise. She'd also done Monster High. So very unusual to be involved in very successful new brands, but we've got a bunch of people on our team who do that. Dave Kunitz, as I mentioned, ran action figure design. Luther Miller, originally an investor, but had deep experience with privacy and security, having built web architecture for Intel and Goldman Sachs. Don Marini ran all of engineering for Hasbro, and was sold that the future, this while we were at Hasbro together doing the pilots, I told him 20 years from now, we are going to be embarrassed. We're going to be embarrassed that we used to spend $100,000 on tools and setup to create our product, in a different country, ship them for it takes 3 months to get them, and just burning oil for no reason.
It's more like 9 months these days.
9 months these days. Yeah, back then was the halcyon days of pre-COVID. And then we're going to leave them in a warehouse in Chino to see if anyone wants to buy them. And at the end of life, we're going to burn or destroy 20% of them.
Wow.
And I said, we're going to be embarrassed that we did that when the technology exists today to, in every country where you sell the product, you make the product, and you don't make it until after you've taken the credit card.
Yeah.
Which is the environmental footprint is a fraction. And in fact, the cost is, as 3D printing seems to be coming down at a Moore's law pace, it's like 17% reduction per year on average. And I said, you got to get into 3D printing, man. It's not going to be that long before people look back and go, it was insane what we were doing in China.
Right.
So when he left Hasbro, he LinkedIn me the first day. I said, we should start a company. I said, we already have, come join me. And then Michelle, a good friend of mine, she's the only one who's not full-time on this, but she was the former SVP of licensing for the NFL, and she has helped us to bring in the licenses that are going to help us grow this year. So we launched in November. We were at the LA Marathon, had a great response. 36% of people who scan themselves. So we use the iPad, and as you can see here, we put it in this sort of fancy ring light. But basically, it's the same thing that you could do, with the ActionFace 3D scanner app on from the iOS App Store. We put that on an iPad and brought it to the LA Marathon. And like I said, 36% of people who sat in a chair ended up purchasing a $50 to $100 action figure. And it's an impulse purchase, and there's not a lot of impulse purchases that are above $30. So this was like, okay, we're ready. We connected with.
Well, I mean, at that price point, that's like 1.5 beers. So
definitely, or in Texas 2.5. Yeah.
right, exactly.
So we decided, okay, we're ready. We actually thought, let's keep it quiet. We connected with the NCAA, and we got into the ESPN bowl games. This is the football championships for college. And as you can see here, we're at the Frisco Bowl. The picture on the left, we're actually right outside of Jerry Jones's private elevator. And the sponsors paid for VIPs to get action figures of themselves. So that's what you're seeing here.
When the elevator doors open, can you smell the brimstone or?
No, but somebody did have nice perfume. I will say that. So it was a hit. We had a net promoter score of 9.74. These were given to people, so we didn't get to see what the conversion rate would be, but the sponsors were very happy. The net promoter score was happy. We'll be doing more business with folks. And from a logistics perspective, we're like, okay, this is working. Crazily enough, we had kept it quiet because we weren't sure if we were going to mess the whole thing up. And Sports Illustrated wrote about us. So I got a call from one of the professional football teams asking if we could come out and work with them. So we will be doing that. I haven't inked the deal, so I can't say what their names are, but we'll be doing that at the beginning of next season. So, what we decided this year is going to be is taking this model and scaling it at stadiums and theme parks. My ultimate dream is that we're at Harry Potter theme park and there's a sorting hat over every iPad, and kids of all ages, if you will, grownups too, will want to turn themselves into a wizard at Hogwarts, and that we've got some great deal with Warner Brothers and Universal Studios, that little animations of you are showing up in windows because you turned yourself into a wizard at Hogwarts. Also working with the sports stadiums. Again, I want to see animations of you on the Jumbotron, and I want people buying quote unquote bobbleheads. Now people seem to refer to what we've got as bobbleheads.
Yeah, I was actually, the first thing I thought was like, I wish these heads bobbled a little more. Somebody in the chat, I want to call out in the chat as well. Somebody mentioned Pez, and I was like, hell yeah, I love Pez.
And we did look at all of those different executions. We looked at putting heads on Lego figures and Funko figures and bobbleheads, and there was a bunch of business research that led to. What's interesting is there's actually a hard cut line in the back of the head that
I noticed that.
We like that. That was because we originally were looking at the heads being either bobble or at least articulated, and we just like the aesthetic, so we left it on there.
Yeah, it's kind of classic. It shows, it says action figure. It's, yeah.
That's exactly it. I think we again, we're magic, fun, suspension of disbelief, fantasy, so sometimes being less good is more fun. We've sort of landed on this toyetic aesthetic, because then you can get away with more. You're not as critical if it's not quite as accurate.
Yeah, the uncanny valley, you don't fall into the uncanny valley when you're trying to make it very accurate.
Right. If I had more than 10 minutes before the meeting to find out that Phil was such a huge wrestling fan, I would have shown a picture of him instead of my son. But
yeah, so, shout out to Los Parks. That's the great La Parca there.
You got it. Good eye. So one of the things that we've discovered in being out there is that, as much as I think everybody wants to give this as a gift to somebody else, we're all a little bit narcissistic, but we're also a little bit embarrassed of our narcissism. So you need that sort of
that is a truth bomb, Kenny.
Hey,
you are absolutely correct.
So just making an action figure of yourself can make you a little self-conscious, but putting yourself with your favorite celebrity, knocking the ball out of the hands of LeBron James, I mean, that can be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So have you met Danhausen yet? We need to get Danhausen on here. We'll talk after the show.
Fantastic. Listen, anybody listening, if you got celebrity contacts for me, let me know. Anyway, what we found is that this tends to be the thing that people most want, is me and my favorite celebrity. So, as I ended the presentation, again, this is, imagine that everything we just talked to, I kept lifting up the hood to show you how the engine, what was making the car drive, but this was a 3-minute presentation. Where it landed was, so I'll go back into presentation mode. I said, this is only the beginning. Just as Amazon began by selling books and grew into the store of everything, we begin by selling action figures and grow into the licensable on-ramp into social media, video games, and eventually the metaverse. And what we're trying to do there is, again, I started with the unicorn, ended with the unicorn. And it's true. I mean, I'm not making up a story in order to get investors. The vision for our company has always been, we're developing a software platform. We're not making action figures. And we can white label these with everything from, Barbies to UFC fighting. But not at the same time, or I probably couldn't get the license to do that. The business opportunity is not, we've created this as a 3D model for 3D printing, but we've created you as a 3D model across platforms. And so I wanted to make sure that was clear, both right at the beginning and right at the end.
Yeah, and there's, again, going back to the personality, there's so much personality in these really short animations with these, fully rigged avatars. And you'll notice they do a little bit of, there's a little bit of an expression on their faces here, which is, it's it's simple but very high impact, which speaks to the experience on the team, being action figure sculptors.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Art meets art and science. You got to have them both. So that was it. And then if anybody would like to scan that, you can go to our website. I have 2 more slides that are specifically for this audience. Feel free to email us. We'd love to hear from you.
The technology wise, is it completely vision based, or is it using LiDAR and other things, other sensors from the phone as well?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked. I'm going to move to the next slide while I answer that. So we are looking for people to join the team, and as we continue to raise money, we will continue adding our team. So right now, using the True Depth camera on the phone, we are it's structured light. It's the front facing camera. Yeah. So it's structured light. We do procedural mesh manipulation. And we do use ML to interpret what's being seen and adjust it. We are looking at, we also take in ARKit data and use that to, basically everything is slightly imperfect. And so the more you can sort of triangulate data points, the more you can make a decision. I'm going to take this from there, that from there, that from there. So you've got the raw scan that you get with the structured light. You have the ML interpretations. You have the ARKit, providing, helpful guidance. And then another thing that we'll be adding in very shortly is there's been a lot of work in 2D to 3D. Using light and shadow to interpret depth. Yeah. And we're very interested in if somebody watching has expertise in that area and would be interested in working with us, we'd love to hear from you. But yeah, so
if it had been a I mean, this is on a phone, but if suppose you were doing this in a photo booth at events, etc., then you could create a completely light-based. Usually when we think about stereo, we think about moving the camera. Yeah. But there is another class of techniques called photometric stereo, where you keep the camera constant and you move the light at least 3 times. And looking at the shading pattern on the face, you can reconstruct the face, and that is super high quality. Like you can literally get the little
you can see people's pores and stuff, and this is done really, really well. Yeah.
Yes, you can. But those techniques, the only challenge is that because it's not simultaneously captured, right? You have to keep still, and then you switch lights, and switching lights you cannot do unless you're in a studio, right? So yeah, that's the challenge. But yeah, there are techniques like that which allow you to do in a studio setting. But it's fascinating that you're using. So the camera that you're using is the same one that Apple uses for doing ensuring that you're not a fake person for face recognition, right? It is creating this mesh by doing structured light. It's throwing out light in the scene. It hits your face, and they're able to measure that it's a 3D face of you, and it's not a fake one. So it's the
very much like the tech is very similar to the structure sensor tech from my old occipital days, which makes sense because some of my old coworkers at Occipital worked on it at Apple.
Yeah, that's right. I was going to say there's a reason for that.
It is no accident.
There's no accident, but it is right now. It is some of the reason that we use it is the fact that it's ubiquitous. 45% of Americans who have smartphones have a Face ID phone.
Right. And also the one who are ready to spend money.
Although you'd be surprised, there's an inverse correlation. A lot of the people who are most excited about getting themselves as an action figure are not the wealthiest people. In fact, a lot of the wealthiest people want their living rooms to look like an Apple store. Um,
Ah,
Yeah, they don't
which
want
is
anything in there. It's yeah, the
it-
aspirational minimalism.
exactly. And
okay.
there's just different aesthetics that go with different socioeconomic classes, but there's a group of people who are like, yeah, I want to show off. And
Right.
then those people are actually our best customers.
Nice, nice.
Let me, so I put this up for a little bit so people could see, if you're interested in working with us, we'd love to hear from you. So here's the 40% off code.
Awesome.
OpenCV, we'll keep it live for the entire month of April. Make an action figure. Like I said, this group, I'm not worried about this at all. The scanner is in beta. It's a little clunky. But in some ways, I almost think that's going to be more fun. But scan yourself 3 times before you commit. The first time you're gonna be concentrating so hard you're gonna look a little stressed out. Second time you'll smile. Third time, make your action face. I guarantee you, your action figure will look cooler.
The third time's the charm.
Third time's the charm.
Is there are there any limits on shipping? Or is this U.S. only or?
I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't even think we can have you scan outside the U.S. and Canada.
Okay.
And this has more to do with, it is not insignificant to Fortress, data. And so
Yeah, there's not many pieces of data that are more personal than your face, I guess.
yeah, and we have figured out a way. I won't get into how we did it for obvious reasons, but that face data is stored nowhere near any other data. It's very important to be. We're entering a world of sort of new territory because we're capturing a lot of data, and so privacy and security is really important in this world.
Yeah, if you don't take it seriously now, you're just setting up a time bomb for yourself.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And I'm glad that you're going slow on this, especially with privacy, instead of, moving fast and breaking things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bingo. Man, we're hitting Zuckerberg hard today.
I shouldn't do that.
I hate that guy. Except that if you want to buy us, let us know because
Yeah, I can just, I don't even need the second part. They can't buy OpenCV.
Cool. Let me just see if there were. I did put a few slides in here. We.
Oh yeah, this is awesome. I'd love to see some of the process here.
Sure. So we 3D print at domestic factories. So as we expand around the world, it won't all be produced in the U.S. obviously. So if we
I mean, let me guess, Fullerton.
No. Well, we actually, so we are partnering. Actually, partnering is a legal term, so I shouldn't use that term. We work very closely with HP, and they provide us a lot of engineering time and support and,
Cool.
and so forth. And because of that, I think we've figured out that about 75% of their printers are available to us throughout the United States and Canada. So these are third-party contract manufacturers, but because of our relationship with HP, if we were to scale tomorrow, we would have access to all of these different printers in a heartbeat because they've helped to pave the way. So when you order, it shows up at your doorstep in 2 weeks.
That's really interesting. That you're taking even a step further than what you said earlier, which is printing domestically, printing spinning these things up in the areas where they're being used.
Yeah.
But also even just geographically closer, like you could, get it printed in Chicago if you're in the Midwest, right? I love that. That's great.
It makes a difference because people care. People, every day matters. So our goal is 3 time zones. Sorry, Mountain Time, but
That's not a real time zone. Mountain Time Mountain Time knows what it did.
It knows what it did. So here are our 2 price points. $100, and then we got our mini me's for $50. This is there to sort of open that mind. Again, everything we're selling to the investors, and believe ourselves. When I say selling, sometimes people think that's a synonym for lying. It's a synonym for explaining. is that, and I use this, so we got Disney Princess up here and we have Harley Davidson, how many software platforms are equally as viable for those two brands? This, of course, is my big, hairy, audacious goal. And then, it's always good to show your competition and respect your competition. I mean, there are 3D scanning booths at, malls, and it's actually a really fast growing business. 27% growth year over year up until COVID. COVID was terrible for it, but, and these are just hyper accurate versions of you. In our research, we found that nobody, I don't have the right percentage, I always say 1%, but it was qualitative research, but it just felt like nobody actually wanted to know how big their butt really was. So it was like, it was always the kids who were like, oh my God, this looks amazing. And everybody else was like, I don't, but this has a bald spot and I don't have a bald spot. So again,
they're like, oh yeah, there must be something wrong with the cameras. Yeah.
And believe it or not, a big part of, we started work, so I had my team that did this at Hasbro. It was all new technology when we started in 2018 as ActionFace. So there's none of the technology, but still we had learned a lot, and we took, the problem statements into the new company. And one of the things that we had learned was you got to automate the whole pipeline, because as a business, labor is your biggest expense. And so even though, our competitors have, well, the 3D scanning booths have these giant 3D scanners, they're doing these massive calculations, they still have to use touch-up artists, often, offshore touch-up artists, in order to be able to make this 3D printable. Ours are 3D printable the minute that your thumb hits buy on your cell phone, it can be sent to a 3D printer. And that cut our cost of goods in half. Wow. This was a surprisingly big market that we stumbled into. There's 17% of gifts given in this country are given by corporations. And you've probably gotten them, and you've probably given them to Goodwill.
Except for the very high quality swag given to us by our good friends at RoboFlow.
So we found that, something that you might actually keep is, is your action figure of you. And we're able to sell this to the corporations, hey, this is going to sit in the living room for years,
And psychologically, it probably feels weird to throw yourself away.
Or your wife. Like, let's be clear. When she comes home from that business retreat with her action figure, you're going to put it in the most, honey, can I put that on my desk?
Bingo.
You're not going to throw that away. So this was our last sort of appendix slide. I just love this. This was a mother who was the team mom of the soccer team, and she sent this to us. She was like, we now only we do our blocking for our plays using the action figures of everyone on the team.
Awesome.
That's great. Yeah, it reminds me of the old, the old electric football games where the thing would vibrate and the little players would move around based on the vibration. Used to make those, gosh, they were from like the 60s or whatever. It reminds me a lot of that.
Totally. So let me stop sharing and answer any questions.
Well, before we do that, should we just do the giveaway question and then move on to audience question?
Great call, Satya. So I'm going to ask a question to you in the audience, in the Zoom audience, based on Kenny's slides here. The first person to answer that question correctly in the Zoom chat will win a free ActionFace. Yeah, super exciting. If you have won recently, say the last couple of months, please don't answer. Give other people a chance to win. We know you're excited and we love you, but we've got to share here. So get ready to answer. In 2012, Kenny helped revive a beloved toy line for Hasbro. What was the name of that toy? All right, they were right on that one. Michael Weiss, correct answer is Furby. Michael, go ahead and shoot one email to phil@opencv.org, and I will make sure that you get hooked up here. Congratulations. And so we have some good questions here today. The first one I think is an easy answer. Maybe Philip would like to know: do you have this? Do you have plans for launching this on Android?
Yes. Yes. So Android does have the ability to do 3D modeling. It's
It seems like it really much still with Android, the device fragmentation is such a pain for stuff that relies on tech like this. Because even if the cameras, or even if it's got the some kind of LiDAR or something in there, the resolution might not be. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, you got you're answering the question. It's trickier than it seems. So I can answer with the process more than the answer, which is, we're going to see if we can make it work with the process that they have today. There's also the possibility, I don't know if you've seen, NVIDIA has this photogrammetry advancement that's just insane. So we're going to see if that can work. And then ultimately we will be working with ML libraries to see if we can get the 2D to 3D, ready for prime time. And with this community, I got to keep inviting you. Like if you have solutions, let us know. We are looking for solutions.
So MediaPipe generates high quality 3D mesh using a single photo. And if you take multiple photos, there should be a way to, create a single mesh, stitch them all together and create a single mesh. So that's something worth looking at.
Maybe we'll have to do an episode, one of our tutorial episodes, 3D capture and then, maybe a little bit about cleaning up, and because that's a big part with this 3D capture stuff. If you're going to print it or use it even in a digital scene, you're always going to have to do some cleanup. That's the real, art, the real labor intensive part is making the model good once you have it. That's why a lot of the time, even these days, it's easier for these designers and creators to just build a model from scratch rather than clean up a real life capture model, because real life is messy as hell.
Yeah, it's true.
Let's see. Satya, this is unrelated, but we've got a couple of questions about the shipping timeline for the books with the OpenCV Kickstarter.
So we are receiving the money from the Kickstarter campaign today. I can literally see it in the bank. It is saying processing, but I can see. And right after that, we have already, we have started the process with Manning, and this week, end of this week, early, hopefully, end of next week for sure, we will have shipped a few of those, or most of those.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But obviously it will take time for people to receive that, right? I'm saying that from our end, we will make the purchase and ship it. Yeah. The same thing with OAK-Ds as well. We have started the process, and it should, it takes whatever time it takes for shipping, but the process has started.
Yeah, and once the shipping happens, everything is so up in the air these days. It really is tough to know, to give an exact. It's not that we're trying to be cagey about it. It's just that we can't actually say because of how crazy the shipping situation is globally.
Right. And with the book, the nice thing is that you also receive a digital copy of the book. And so you will get instant access once the process is complete, and then you'll get the physical book in whatever time it takes.
That's great. Best of both worlds. Start reading the digital one, and then be a couple chapters in when the real one arrives.
Yeah.
Another good question here from Girish. Are you thought about doing this for pets, Kenny?
Yeah. Yeah, so I would throw the question back to the group. I mean, everyone here knows what it would take to 3D scan the face of a pet.
We've all tried to scan an animal at some point, and it works about as well as trying to 3D scan a kid.
Right. So so then it really comes down to a marketing consumer journey question, which is, I was hoping, I'm sure you were hoping for a tech answer, but the marketing consumer journey question is, can you make enough pets where people go, that's close enough and I love it? Or are they going to say, that's not really That's not Fido.
I mean, I wonder if are pets the one time when you want it to be exactly the same. Like you probably don't want your pet slam dunk in a basketball. Maybe you do. That actually sounds kind of awesome now that I said it out loud. But I wonder if, because you do want that weird little bald patch on the back of their neck where they never stopped licking when they were a puppy and it just never grew back. Like you want that stuff. You want the imperfections in your pets probably.
Yeah, and they can be crossbreed too. So we can make a chocolate lab, we can make a Doberman, but I mean, how many versions do you have to make in order to get people to say, you've got Spot right?
Yeah, it's interesting. Philip would like to know again, what are the dimensions for the biggest ActionFace?
Yeah, so partly you can see it in my hand. Let me see if I can. So this is about 7 inches from the base. The
Okay.
figure itself is about 5.5.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Let's see here.
And this is the bigger one, right? You had 2 different versions.
Yeah,
That's right.
what are the small? What's the difference between the large one and the small one?
Okay, so this is small.
There's the mini.
There's the mini me's. So we got the me's and the mini me's.
Yeah,
Okay.
you got to be careful. Michael Myers is going to get at you.
I welcome the fight. So
Excellent.
yeah, we actually did do a legal search on that one.
Got
Turns out the word "me" is common.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Wait.
Well, and Vern Troyer has passed away, I believe. So
I know. It's very sad. Anyway, so that's the me's and the mini me's.
love it. Yeah, we're getting close to the end. I wanted to do so. As a lot of people know, last week we had the premiere of the OpenCV AI game show. Thank you so much to everybody that tuned in for that. It was a lot of fun. I hope that it was a lot of fun for you as well. If you did watch it and liked it, drop us a line on LinkedIn, post about it. It only helps us. The more people talk about it, it makes it more likely that we'll be able to make more. One of the features on that show was a segment we called Wrong Answers Only, wherein our contestants on the show gave their best wrong answer to an AI-generated animal that I built using VQ, GAN, and Clip. What we're going to do now is show that segment from the show and encourage you to go vote for your favorite. When we announce the winner's charity will win an additional $500 from our generous sponsors at Intel OpenVINO Toolkit.
But also we will select from among people who have voted. We will select 5 OAK-D lights. So we'll give away 5 OAK-D lights. Just to give you an idea, the response has been, we probably did not communicate it well during the contest. So response has been very mild. You have a very high chance of winning if you just.
There's a very good chance that you will win a free OAK-D light if you vote here.
All right.
Now it's time for Wrong Answers Only, where you and the audience decide which contestant gave the best response. Visit opencv.org/gameshow to vote for your favorite. This image was generated by a method called VQ-GAN plus Clip. What is the name of this rare and majestic animal?
What do you think that image was, Kieran?
Storm bunny.
You think it's a storm bunny? I was gonna call it Hyper Bunny.
No, it's called the Storm Legend bunny.
Okay, are you sure? That's what you think it is? Okay, all right, we'll go with that. It's, I guess, final answer, gonna go with Storm Bunny for this.
No, go Storm Legend bunny.
Kieran's going to be a
Storm
great
Legend
manager
Bunny?
someday.
Okay, all right, we'll go with Storm Legend Bunny. Sounds good.
So what kind of animal is that? Well, first, it's not an animal, it's a GANimal, and GAN stands for Generative Adversarial Network. And so few people know this about me, but I'm actually an expert in small mammals. We hang out all the time. But that animal specifically, you can just tell by the coat and the orientation of the eyes and it's just general habitat there that is a nightmare rabbit. There's no There's no second guessing what that animal is. It's a nightmare rabbit.
It's a misty Tuesday. You're out on your nightly scavenger hunt to ensure you have sufficient subsistence for the rest of the week. Above, in the clouds, could it be the rare, the majestic, the Kafka-esque? It is. It's the Ganosaurus Rex. You can't take it down for its sheer beauty. It's 2043. You take off your metaverse licensed headset. You return to bed. The name of the creature is a Ganosaurus Rex.
So who? All right, so please visit opencv.org/game show to vote. We will select 5 lucky winners to each get 1 free Oak D Light. And this is open globally as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some countries we cannot ship to.
They're due to legal things. Yeah. So please do that, and please join us at 5 p.m. Pacific. I will be in the chat on YouTube for the YouTube premiere of OpenCV AI game show in case you missed it the first time. Next week, our guest will be our good friends at Super Annotate, talking about computer vision trends in 2022. Satya, you want to take us home?
Yeah, thank you so much, Kenny. And these slides are available for us to share with our audience.
You bet. You bet.
All right. So so people will be able to get the the code and the links, etc., from the slides as well.
Yeah, use
Thank
that
you
OpenCV code. I'm totally going to do it.
Right. Me too. For the kids, at least.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Kenny. It was a real pleasure to have you here and give us this other aspect, where you're using computer vision, but it's the selling, the marketing of a computer vision technology. And congratulations on winning the pitch contest. And thanks for being here. Phil, thank you for organizing this. And as always, our audience, thank you all for every week showing up and encouraging us to put the show together. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for watching this episode of the webinar. Please hit that like button, subscribe, and don't forget to tap the little bell icon to be notified when new episodes drop. This week's episode was brought to you by OpenCV Courses. Learn computer vision and AI from the best at opencv.org/courses. If you'd like to be in the audience next week, subscribe to the OpenCV newsletter.